Welcome to today's Explainer. I am so incredibly glad you're joining me because today we are unpacking a story that is honestly just deeply emotional and super reflective. We're going to look at a really powerful narrative that tackles family dynamics, aging, and a universal truth that we literally forget all the time in our crazy, fast-paced modern lives. It's a story about a wooden bowl, an aging father, and a really profound concept known as the law of echoes.
So here's a question for you right out of the gate. Do our children learn from what we say or what we do? I mean, we spend so much time lecturing, right? Instructing and telling the next generation exactly how to behave. But this story suggests that all those words might just be background noise compared to the deafening volume of our actions. Keep this provocative question in the back of your mind as we walk through this family story, because the answer is going to hit like a ton of bricks.
Okay, let's dive into this. There is this huge, stark contrast between our expectations and the actual reality of aging. You know that common saying, right? That when a person gets old, they kind of become a child again? And that's the expectation, that they'll need our patience, our gentle guidance, and our unconditional love. But the reality? Well, the reality is often quite different. Think about it. As a society, we have this seemingly endless, joyful tolerance for the mistakes and clumsiness of little kids. But when it comes to our elderly parents, their physical weaknesses are suddenly treated as an annoyance. We lose our patience, and tragically, they often lose their dignity, suddenly being viewed as a burden rather than a blessing.
To really see how this dynamic plays out, let's look at the family at the center of our source material. First, we've got Ahmad. He's the aging father and his body is just starting to fail him. Then there's his son, Aslam, a man who has kind of become blinded by his own material success. We also have Zainab, Aslam's wife, and finally there's Ali, their completely innocent 6-year-old grandson. Now, on the surface, this is a picture-perfect, successful family. They share dinner at this beautiful dining table covered with fine, expensive dishes. It literally looks like the ultimate picture of success.
Part 1. The trembling hands. A shattered teacup. That perfect veneer cracks under the weight of aging. You see, the inciting incident of our story happens right at that beautiful dinner table. Ahmad, the grandfather, is experiencing something totally out of his control. His hands are trembling. It's just the natural weakness of old age, right? But as he reaches out, just trying to lift a teacup and a glass plate, those trembling hands betray him. The dish slips right from his grasp, crashes to the floor, shatters into pieces, and spills tea everywhere.
And Aslam's immediate reaction to his dad's accident? It's just cruel. He furiously furrows his brow and snaps, "This is a daily drama. You can't even hold a dish straight. Every day an expensive dish is broken." And to make matters even worse, Zainab, the daughter-in-law, immediately chimes in, complaining that she's totally exhausted from constantly cleaning up his messes. I mean, notice what's happening here. They are blatantly prioritizing the safety of expensive, totally replaceable objects over the dignity of the very man who gave Aslam life.
The emotional toll of this harshness is just devastating. The text describes how Ahmad doesn't even fight back. He doesn't yell. Instead, he simply lowers his head in this deep, crushing embarrassment. Tears well up in the old man's eyes. I mean, think about it. In his own home, surrounded by his own blood, he's made to feel entirely worthless and ashamed, simply because his aging body is doing exactly what aging bodies do.
Part 2. The wooden bowl. A cruel solution. Let's move to this next part and see how it builds. Because Aslam's reaction doesn't just stop at cruel words. The very next day, driven by this obsession with his wealth and his expensive dining sets, Aslam goes to the market and buys a cheap wooden bowl and a tiny wooden table. This is his cold, clinical solution to the so-called problem of his father's trembling hands. The new reality of their home is absolutely heartbreaking. Just look at the stark contrast here. On one side, you've got the main table. This is where Aslam, Zainab, and little Ali sit. It's filled with family, warmth, laughter, and fine china. But on the other side, completely removed from the family unit, is the corner table. It represents isolation, punishing silence, and a cheap wooden bowl. Aslam has literally and emotionally exiled his own aging father to the corner of the room.
The image this creates is incredibly heavy. The source text describes the elderly father sitting completely alone at this little desk in the corner. He's eating his meals out of this cheap wooden bowl, and as he eats, he's quietly weeping. He's been entirely stripped of his place in the family. He's not being treated as a revered elder, but as a messy inconvenience that just needs to be quarantined.
Part 3. An innocent mirror. The grandson's lesson. But, as it so often happens in life, a profound lesson arrives from the most unexpected place. A few days pass with this cruel new arrangement in place. Aslam returns home from a long day at work,
and the scene he walks into sets up the emotional climax of our narrative. He is about to look into an innocent mirror that's going to reflect his true self right back at him.
So Aslam walks into the courtyard, and he spots his 6-year-old son Ali. Ali is sitting right there on the ground, deeply focused. He's got some tools and a knife, and he's carefully carving away at a piece of wood, really trying to build something. Aslam, completely oblivious to what's actually happening, walks up to his son and lovingly asks him, "My son Ali, what are you making?" Ali smiles with that pure, unadulterated childhood innocence and replies that he's making a small wooden horse and a wooden bowl. Curious, Aslam asks, "But for whom?"
Ali looks directly into his father's eyes, and he says, "Papa, when you and Mommy get old and your hands tremble like Grandpa, I will give you food in this wooden bowl so expensive dishes don't break, and sit you in that corner."
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the psychological breakdown of what happens next. First, shock. The source text describes the ground literally slipping out from under Aslam's feet. His own hands actually begin to tremble. Second, guilt. He looks over at his wife, Zainab, and both of their eyes just fill with tears of deep, deep shame. They realize in a flash of pure horror exactly what practical lesson they had been teaching their son, and that he's preparing to treat them the exact same way. And third, immediate correction. This innocent revelation serves as a powerful wake-up call that demands instant action. Aslam doesn't wait a single second. He physically runs to the corner where his father is sitting. He grabs his elderly dad's trembling hands and just kisses them. Through heavy tears, he begs for his father's forgiveness. And then he guides his aging father up from that isolating corner desk and brings him right back to the main table, finally restoring his honor and his rightful place at the absolute heart of the family.
And this brilliantly illustrates the core message of our source material, beautifully captured in a concept known as Makafate Amal, which translates to the law of echoes, or the ultimate recompense of action. The universal principle here is that children do not learn what you teach them. They mirror the behaviors they witness you do. Filial piety, the respect and care we show to our elders, is entirely cyclical. It's literally an echo. The energy, the respect, or the disdain you put out into the world regarding your parents, it's going to bounce directly off your children and come right back to hit you. Which brings us to a really crucial question I want to leave you with today. What blueprint are you building for your own future? The way you speak to your parents, the patience you afford their aging bodies, the dignity you ensure they maintain, that is the exact blueprint your children are quietly studying, memorizing, and preparing to build for your own future treatment when your hands inevitably begin to tremble. Thank you so much for joining me to explore this profound story, and I highly encourage you to take a moment today to reflect on the echoes you're creating in your own life.